In this episode of GYDA Talks, Robert talks to Jenny Plant. Jenny started her career in account management in the early 1990s, and apart from 5 years working client-side as a marketing manager, she has spent her career in agencies managing client relationships. Jenny started Account Management Skills in 2010 to help creative agency leaders retain and grow existing clients by training their account management team.
Hello and welcome to the GYDA initiative, Grow Your Digital Agency video podcast. We call it any number of things, but it's a recording, and we're delighted today to have with us Jenny Plant. Now, Jenny runs Account Management Skills, and it seemed obvious that we should be talking to her because the account management skills piece comes up in almost any conversation. So without further ado, hello Jenny, introduce yourselves to us.
Hello, Robert, and thank you so much for inviting me. I'm really thrilled to be here. Fundamentally, my clients are agency owners who recognise that they have an opportunity to add more value to existing clients, but perhaps they don't feel that they have the account management skills in their team. Either they lack the confidence, the experience, or the skills to grow that account. So fundamentally, I offer a training program that takes them from unpredictable project revenue to more predictable account growth.
And what's the story behind account management skills? How did you end up where you are today?
Well, I started Account Management Skills in 2010 when I left Publicis Life Brands, where I was general manager in charge of an international healthcare agency, 4 million turnover, 40 people. And I'd always been in account management, but funnily enough, it wasn't until that point that I received sales training. And that sales training really, really opened my eyes to what I was missing out on. And the quality of the conversations I was then having with my clients were completely transformed. And I was spotting opportunities to add more value. I was asking questions in a different way. I had a completely different commercial mindset. Not being sleazy, salesy, as you would typically expect, but it was so powerful that I managed to grow the agency. And I thought, why on God's earth do people not train this stuff earlier? Because when I was an account exec starting in the early 1990s in Hatton Garden, I could have really, throughout my career, added so much more value to my client relationships. Because apart from a couple of years client side as a marketing manager for an airline and also for a pharmaceutical company, I have spent the majority of my life in account management. So
okay, go on. So sorry to interrupt. So what was because I want to stick with this sales training course. So what was a big aha that you got from that?
It was, this guy turned up in the office to coach me because I'd been recently promoted from client services director to general manager. And slightly arrogantly, I thought, well, what can he tell me about my industry and my job? But within minutes, he almost had me in tears. What's your conversion rate? What does your client development plans look like? What's your pipeline? And it was like a foreign language. Now that seems strange to me now, but I never thought I was in the business of sales. And since that, you asked me why I do what I do. From 2010, that was my epiphany moment. And shortly after, 2010 was a bit of a strange year for me because my dad was diagnosed with cancer. And I decided to leave the agency. And I thought, now's the time to set up my own thing. So 2010, I thought, I'm going to package up all of these skills. Plus, I'd been following thought leaders in the agency space, and I was continually learning and help others. So when I get people coming through my training program, I see myself as the younger version, and it's a joy to see them blossom and them shine and them increase in confidence.
So 2010, you set up the business, and that's 9 years. Well, when people listen to this in 2020, they'll go, that's 10 years. So what's the journey been since then?
Well, the journey hasn't been a straight line. when I first left Publicis, I was running account management skills training, which was an embryo of an idea. I mean, it was mostly a blog. I started blogging and evangelizing, but at the same time, I was involved in other ventures. So I did a bit of consulting. I had a few direct clients. I worked for a consultancy called Relationship Audits, where I was auditing relationships. I did a bit of acquisition management, and so it wasn't really until the beginning of last year that I went full-time on the business. So yeah, it's been a busy 9 years.
Okay, so I mean, look, I guess in a way it's like asking you to smoke your own dope or whatever. But why should people buy from you? What makes you different from the rest? Because that's the question that I ask everyone, and it's a question, that you and I find. You stand up in front of a room full of agencies, and we were talking about it the other day, and whether and I remember really clearly being really worried speaking in front of 50 of London's best. I mean, full on Versace jeans and crew neck jumpers, and Havas, and we're sponsored by Dentsu and Accenture and all that. And I did the program the way I normally do it, which is, okay, guys, gals, primarily guys, what is it you want to know about by 1 o'clock? Let's put it up on the wall. And the number one was, why should people buy from us? And it's like, but I do understand why people still ask that. So when you're asked that question, why should people buy from you? What makes you different from the rest? How do you? I mean, we're not asking for an elevator pitch, but what's your shtick?
So typically, training is usually a one-day workshop, but I don't believe one-day workshops really are enough to make a change. So why I'm different is that I offer coaching. So at the end of my workshop or my program, everyone sets a 90-day goal for themselves. And that 90-day goal is developed by them. And they develop an action plan based on the strategies that we've been teaching. And they come up with the plan. And then I sort of support them in the implementation of their plan. So it's partly accountability and partly support, because obviously growing a piece of business there's so many variables.
Yeah.
And also with my experience over 25 years, there's probably not one single awkward client situation that I haven't been in myself. So not only, I mean, I feel so passionate about this because it's a joy. I love coaching. So really it's a fusion of my experience, but also this accountability and support piece, which differentiates me, I think.
But I think it's actually cleverer than that. So I think you're underselling yourself. So we were party to a bunch of research done by Google, where they tried to identify the high performers in the bell curve, not the top 0.25%, but the top 10%. And it's easy to identify what they do differently: higher prices, bigger clients, adding more value. It was easy to identify the difference between the high performers and the average performers. But it's more, but what is it that the high performers do differently? What is it we can do to get people to high perform? It's not about giving them the book or the slide deck that says, oh, high performers charge this is a billability, this is a utilization rate, this is how they do a proposal. Because we all kind of know what that is. And the trick, the secret sauce about getting those people over to the high performing end is literally about hand holding them on that journey, nudging them, giving them the encouragement, the accountability to actually make that happen. So I am a huge fan of whatever we wish to call it: coaching, consulting, one-to-one work, mentoring, and so on and so forth. So it's just the piece. Okay, so account management, what do you mean by account manager? And how would you describe what their role is and what their role isn't?
There's two aspects here. I've called it account management skills because essentially anyone in an agency who is responsible for the day-to-day interaction with that client is effectively account managing. Yeah. The role of an account manager, because every agency is slightly different in how they're structured and what business model they have. I see an account manager's role as the ambassador for the agency that is principally responsible for the day-to-day interaction with the client. Now, some agencies, that role is kind of it's blended between a project manager and account manager. The account manager or project manager is expected to do both, the day-to-day project, but also the client liaison. In other agencies, it's possibly a pod structure, like Spencer Gallagher from Agencynomics advocates, having a project manager, an account manager, and a specialist on a pod. So that role is kind of a split. So it really depends on the agency, but fundamentally, account management skills are who is responsible for making sure you nurture that client relationship.
Who is responsible for nurturing the client relationship? So it's not just about making sure that stuff's delivered on time. It's not just about making sure that we've conformed to the spec that we promised and what's on the contract. It's all the soft stuff.
Absolutely, because we are in the people business, aren't we? It's a relationship.
Well, I know that, and you know that, and you know that, but I'm not sure if you've gone up through the ranks from being, a developer or an exec, and now you've got a few people reporting into you, and you've got projects going on, and you've got clients to keep happy, and you've got schedules and timetables and so on and so forth. I'm not sure whether lots of people in the inverted commas account manager role actually get that.
Okay, commercially, as we know, Robert, you know very well, to go out and get new business costs 5 to 25 times more than growing existing business.
Yeah.
So if you have someone on the front line dealing with your current clients, they're best placed to spot an opportunity to add more value and grow the account. We know that. I know you're. I know. So why would you not equip them with some frameworks, tools, models, scripts, support, confidence to actually be the person that moves that account forward and adds the value, spots the opportunity to add value.
So I totally get that, and as I've inappropriately said quite often, I think selling is the best thing you can do with your clothes on. It's the most exciting thing, and it's not selling. I mean, my first job was on Petticoat Lane, where we just sold any old tat, and a close friend of mine always says, what does a marketing agency do? It sells rubbish that people don't really want. I don't mean like that. I mean, we have a product, it delivers awesome value. You, Mrs. Client, clearly are looking for it. You're looking for this solution. We're able to give you this solution, and if you have this solution, the benefits you get will be this and this, which means you'll get this, and that's what you want, and that's what I want, and I've managed to show you that's it. So I've you don't need. Sorry, not you. One doesn't need to persuade me, but I know that you must get lots of people in the classroom, so to speak, going, "Hi, and why are you here today?" No, I've been sent here by the managing director. And there's kind of all this kind of body language, and are you going to ask us to do role play, and are you going to do you have to get close to people? Because actually, what I'd really like to do is get back to my computer, because that's where I feel most comfortable. I mean, you must get the full spectrum of people.
What I would say is the ones that really get it, and they want to improve themselves, they're into development, they are ambitious, they want to progress, they drink it up, they absorb it up. The people and yes, it might be, I've had people talk to me over the weekend, talk to me when they're on their day off, because they love this stuff, just as I did. I responded well to it. But of course, you're going to have the jobbing account managers, project managers that just want to go in, do their job and go home. So absolutely.
Maybe
but going back.
was going to, sorry to interrupt. I was going to
Oh,
say
no, please.
maybe that's the fault of the culture of the organisation, that the people at the top of the organisation haven't made it clear that what we're about is working with clients. Clients pay the wages. What we're about is helping clients. What we do is help clients. You know, our purpose in life is to help clients get what they want. What do clients want? Clients want more clients. We can do that. We can do that really, really well. We should be proud of what we do. We charge great prices, and clients love us. So all we're doing is we're helping people. We're not flogging them a product they don't really want. I mean, maybe it's the culture of the organisation that their hiring policy and the messaging they've been sending out to people.
Possibly. I think every agency, you've got to think about what are we actually selling and what's the client buying. Now, Tim Williams, who's like a pricing guru and thought leader in the agency space, did a huge survey, global survey, several years ago that was sponsored by all the kind of agency bodies.
Yeah.
And it was amongst clients and agencies.
Mm.
And it was the one question that was asked. And I asked this question to everyone that comes to my workshop and goes through my program. What are you selling? Okay. Now, you can imagine if you just ask yourself that question right now, all of the ideas that you can come up with. We're selling people, ideas, we're selling strategy, we're selling digital solutions, da, 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 da. But actually, what was revealed and what is fundamentally true is that we are selling business outcomes. So clients are buying business outcomes.
That's what people are buying. I mean, I think do people care whether you've got a purpose? Do people care whether you invest 10% of profits in the dolphins? Do people care whether you're running a holacracy? Do people care whether you're a Google Premier partner? Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. But I mean, I'm totally with you that it's what people. It's not getting into the shoes of the customer, isn't it?
It's exactly, and that leads me to. What are we expecting this frontline person to do? Their job fundamentally is to listen to the client, to understand their challenges, their pain, their struggles, to not stop at one question and then start talking about themselves. This is a skill in listening, coaching, really uncovering the challenges, the struggles, what's driving them. What have they tried before? What's worked, what hasn't worked? Tell me more about that, Mr. Client. But fundamentally, and it sounds so kind of simplistic, but it is a lot about listening. And every client that I ever spoken to, because I do a lot on LinkedIn and I try and rope in clients or ex-clients of mine and say, give me your opinion on this. What do agencies do well? What don't they do so well? And this comes up all the time, is listen to me, understand my business, what's driving me personally. Because our clients, yes, they want to do a good job and they want to get more customers, as you said, but also they're going through their own challenges, their own struggles. They have their own targets, their own drivers, their own motivations, their own political environment at the client side. So the more that you can make them understand that you get it, that you are the one that is going to stand out, really, amongst your peers, if you can be the one that really gets it. Because yeah, I could go on all day about this, Robert, to be honest.
No, because I
get so passionate about it.
Okay, so last night I was reading Tom Peters' latest book, the
Not Chimp Paradox.
No, Tom Peters, the old American guy, The Excellence Dividend. And Tom Peters says, he talks about fierce listening, okay, which I'm guilty of not always doing. Fierce listening, and that leaning in and really listening and really. And he says, as a probably 75-year-old management guru, the Uber guru who charges 50,000 quid for one presentation and so on and so forth, that when he goes into a meeting, he writes the word listen on his hand to remind himself that you actually get so much more from just shutting up than look at me, look at what I'm doing. So yeah, I'm absolutely hooked into fierce listening.
I love that, fierce listening, and that really kind of So let me ask you the question from Fierce Listening. What aha moment have you picked up from reading the book? Anything that you are doing differently that you hadn't before?
It's a bonkers book because it. I'm interviewing you. It's a bonkers book because it's 12 books in one. It's way too meaty. But I think the aha from the reading yesterday was just shut up and listen. And I think it's about intent, whether it's about IT, marketing, sales, design. It's just about a obsessive belief in intent will create an exceptional business. And that wonderful Jerry Garcia quote, which I'm about to screw up, which goes roughly, it's great to be in a niche, but it's even better to be in a niche where there's only one person. That whole idea that the only thing you should really be competing on is being the best, because there's no one else in the space of being the best you. Anyhow.
Very good. I've got another book recommendation about listening called Just Listen by Mark Goulston. Mark Goulston is an FBI hostage negotiator and psychologist and psychiatrist. I mean, he's just got lots of letters behind after his name. He's written a book called Just Listen. And I mean, he talks people down from, stepping off a tall building. So the art of listening, if you want to learn from anyone, learn from him.
Nice one.
Very, very fantastic book.
Cool. So how do we, so this is not so much about the teaching and the training, but how do you see account managers being able to, one person will call it nurture the relationship, I'll call it cross-sell and upsell. But what's required for an account manager to be able to do that in a seamless way, so it's not. Oh, there's one more thing. Would you like to buy more? So how do you see that rolling out?
Well, my program has 3 steps. The first step is audit, and we really look at we step back from our accounts and we look at strategically, out of all our client accounts, where are the opportunities? Yep. Because you might not want to grow all accounts. They might not be ready to grow. You may be actually in conflict with some clients, so it's not the appropriate time to grow that account. So the first thing is to step back and look at all of the accounts. And then once you've kind of categorized them in terms of growth opportunity, then you look at the relationships within those accounts. Where are our supporters, where are our blockers? So it's really strategic. And in my experience, account managers love this because they feel that they're getting a chance to be a little bit strategic with the relationship. Yeah. The second step is about being client-centric. And what I mean by that is both the softer skills, as you say, which is asking the right questions. And I have questioning frameworks. We do exercises, listening skills, really uncovering the client's challenges, understanding what you are selling, and then the actions. And there's like a plethora of different actions that you can take. So let's take, for example, I'll give you an example of referrals. Now, every agency knows that they should be gaining referrals. But again, it can be icky, like when's appropriate, what do you say? So one solution I have is give value first. So for example, if you have a client perhaps who's part of a bigger organization and you see that there's, maybe you're dealing with the marketing manager or brand manager, and there's a brand manager down the hallway that you could also do similar work for, then why not come up with a piece of training? Something that is so compelling for that client. And obviously there's a way of doing this. You have to test a few ideas with them. But the client is often very static and they see the agency as very fluid, very on point, very cutting edge. So what can we teach that client? Maybe during a lunch and learn session, for example, 45 minutes, something really valuable, compelled. And you say, by the way, is anyone else from your organization interested potentially in this subject? Would you like to invite them along? Okay. So all of a sudden, you've got yourself in front of other stakeholders within the client company. You are presenting, you are being positioned as the the thought leader, the expert, and then that's your job to then nurture those relationships. So that's one way, but there's lots of different ways that you can grow business, lots of different activities, going proactively to a client with an idea. And again, it comes back to, first of all, is this idea going to be appropriate, and is it going to fit with their objectives, their strategies? In order to find that out, you've got to be asking the right questions.
So how does the account management, here's a question for you, how does the account management team affect the existing growth then in a business?
They are the ones that can spot an opportunity. So take one of my students who came back to her agency with a 60 grand project through what? Spending the day with her client, talking about another project. And actually the client was going through an acquisition. So internally there was lots of wranglings, and that client had to present kind of a bit of a past, here's where we are and this is what we've done so far. And she simply said, let's suppose we could help you with that. Would that be something you'd like me to look at? And the client said, well, yeah, great. How can you help? I said, well, we could do this, we could do that. Before you know it, she's got 2 projects to help that client with this huge presentation that they had to give. Yeah. So she comes back to the agency. So where is this happening? These growth opportunities are happening while you're with the client, to add more value, to help, to support. So rather than saying we can do that, it's let's suppose we could help you with something like this. Would that be something you'd like us to help with? Doesn't have to be in your face kind of selling.
But getting back to in your face, so my thing is always about where's the over business benefit? What's the real reason to believe you can deliver? So is there evidence? Is there some stats, some numbers that kind of prove that farmers can grow accounts? Is there stats on that?
Official stats, no, but I've got testimonials and examples of my students who are, you would never say that they were salespeople. Take Rose, for example. Rose, fantastic example of her growing in confidence, because this is the byproduct of doing some training and coaching on a regular basis, is that they grow in confidence. As a result of her growth in confidence, she had a £20,000 video project with a client. She managed to turn that into a £500,000 account within 6 months. Now, I'm not saying that result is typical, but there's an example of someone growing in confidence in front of the client, not scared anymore to say something in a meeting. Because this can be as simple as, Robert, some people shy away from picking up the phone, they shy away from meetings, there's lack of preparation before a meeting, and this is something else that I have in my program, which is a pre-meeting 1-page plan. What's the role of everyone in the agency? What have we done so far? What are the relationship issues? What are the business issues? So yes, in answer to your question, I don't know of any survey or study to show that farmers, traditional kind of farmers versus hunters, have that ability, but I've seen it with my own eyes. So that's what I find so exciting. Sales doesn't have to be, I never use the word sales in my training. I call it client development.
So the numbers are something like sort of 70-75% of clients come from, I find it really bizarre, something like 70-75% of clients come from referral, recommendation, people already. This is my lovers, friends and strangers approach. And I'm always really surprised how people always say, so that means there's 20-25% of our business we're getting from the hard work, the difficult push. We need to do more of that. And it's like, actually, no, I think they don't know who you are, they don't know your product, they don't know your customers. So why on earth do you think they should buy you? So why not sell to your so if there's a triangle which goes 85% of our time we try and sell to strangers, and 10% of the time we try and sell to friends who vaguely know who we are and what we do, and 5% of the time we sell to our lovers who know what we do, they love what we do, they're our ambassadors. why don't you flip the whole thing round and spend 85% of your time trying to sell to lovers or getting lovers to help you even more, rather than trying to sell to people who don't know who you are? I mean, it's just bonkers.
It is. It doesn't make good business sense, and I mean, this is music to my ears, and I love what you've just described there. That's a very elegant way of putting it, and the stats are out there for this, aren't they?
Yeah.
It is so much easier to grow existing business, but why do you think, Rob? Let me ask you, why do you think that agencies aren't activating that opportunity as much as they could?
I think it's easier to do a PPC or an SEO campaign. It's more removed, it's more remote, it's all done on your laptop, as opposed to picking up the phone. It's as simple as that. One of the things I do at workshops is I say, okay, it's lunchtime now. Write down the names of 3 people you've not spoken to recently or proposals you've been waiting to hear back. When we come back from lunch, we're going to ask everyone who they phoned. And everyone goes, it's amazing, I phoned and they said they'd give us a proposal. It's amazing, I got that coffee I've been trying to get. It's amazing. It's like, yeah, exactly. It's like, you pick up the bloody phone rather than sending them an email, because you don't reply to email. So why on earth do you think other people should reply to email? So it's actually about something about getting people. I have a thing, the 66 spreadsheet, which is about, making 60 contacts, talking to 60 people in 6 weeks. That's 2 people a day, proper conversations. And you start off with maybe 10 people you need to talk to, but you just say, hi, I'm talking to you, just doing this thing where I'm making sure I connect, understand what's going on in your industry, what's happening with you. Oh, it's fantastic. What are we doing? Oh, we got this new product. Oh, that new product's not for us, but Fred, who's my brother-in-law, he'd be interested. Would you like to talk to him? And all I know is that everyone who follows that 66 thing, which is, 60 phone calls, 60 proper conversations in 6 weeks, transforms that business, because there's just stuff on the table that people don't ask for, and they just need some kind of a device that enables them to pick up the phone.
And that's the key, isn't it? It's like pushing on an open door, but until someone sets you a bit of a challenge like that and structures it, and I love that, just 2 calls a day. Like, who could say no to not doing, no one could say, oh, I can't possibly make 2 phone calls a day. I often wonder, Robert, whether it's because I did start working in the 1990s and I didn't have email. Yeah. I mean, this is really dating myself, but I had to manage my client relationships through the phone. We had a fax machine that was for approvals, but I had to pick up the phone every time I needed to interact with my client. And somehow it exercises a muscle, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think it is more than that. I think it's about connection, and we just, yesterday we had it wasn't a monumental cock up, but it was like, an email coming through, we'd read the email one way, the client meant something else, we sent it back. There's so much room for confusion, error, and I think more importantly, for me, sales is about engagement. It's about talking. It's about sharing. It's about scratch and sniff, and in this day and age, we do everything we can to get away from the scratch and sniff. But actually, it's I think it's fantastic. We've got clients, we just counted just this morning, we've got clients in 20 countries that we work with, all through the medium of Zoom and Skype and Google Hangout. That's just fantastic. It's really exciting. But you need to pick up the bloody phone. You need to talk to people.
You do, and you can also take advantage of technology to have a little bit more of an interaction. For example, there's apps now like Bonjoro. I love Bonjoro. I'm always using Bonjoro to send little video messages via email.
Like Loom, is it?
Like Loom, yeah. So you record, but it's all kind of all done for you. It's very easy to use, and I do this with my students. Just checking in with you. How did that meeting go? Tell me. Hit reply and let me know. Send that in a email, and it's all done for you. And people love it. They say, "Oh, thank you. That was a real personal message to me." Similarly with LinkedIn, now you can do a voice message. Yeah. So in your messaging, you just send a voice message. It's so much more. You get so much more connectiveness with that.
Yeah, and also you're making the effort. It's not just control, cut, paste, control, paste, as some people, so I'm led to believe, do that. Okay, couple of questions. What do you think are the biggest challenges for today's agency businesses? You know, how do you think they should be dealing with this world that they're living in? What's your take on that?
I see that one of the biggest challenges is profitability. And that's either because projects go on too long, or they're over-servicing, or there's delays, they're not managing expectations, so it affects the forecast. You're nodding because you've seen it all.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of it, and this might sound a bit strange, but a lot of it starts with positioning, because I do think that the more narrow focus you are on positioning, the more attractive you are to potentially clients, and the more that they'll pay for your services. And as Blair Enns says, you have more power in the sale.
Yep.
So you can charge more and you've got less competition. So positioning is the first thing I'd say. And a great example of this is JH. JH is an e-commerce agency, and they position themselves quite narrowly. They specialise in Magento. And not only that, they're on like level 2 of Magento, which is like the latest version. They are very narrowly focused, but they are inundated with clients who want to work with them.
Yeah.
So there's a great example of, and basically you're able then to charge more, and that starts the ball rolling. The more you can charge for, then you have more scope. If you're scrambling for a pitch opportunity and not qualifying the pitch opportunity to make sure it's the right business that you want in the door, you end up on the back foot. So your clients at your agency and the rest of your team are running around trying to deliver this work that wasn't profitable and not good for you in the first place. So yeah, that's what I...
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of Niche. I always quote, and he's actually sat in your seat, so to speak, David Gilroy from Conscious Solutions, based in Bristol. They help, I think the tagline is something like, they help lawyers get more clients. They only work with law firms. In fact, they only work with law firms with whatever it is, between 25 and 100 desks. They only work with one law firm per town. And it's that razor sharp focus, which means that they know more about law firms than law firms do. They know more about how much it costs to win a customer. They know more about what the competition are doing. They know more about, and so it makes absolute sense to be in a small village where you're really well known than trying to be all things to all people, where you're kicking up against lots of different people. So I'm a really big fan. And are there any big, so I'm 100% billability, resource management, pricing, costing, just lots of people just aren't on top of it. And are there any of the kind of the big long-term strategic, I mean, how do you see that? Is the world going to be Google? Is it going to be voice? Has marketing dead? I mean, what's your stuff?
What I am seeing happening is the consultancy businesses starting to acquire agencies, digital agencies particularly, like Accenture, who are very acquisitive, and the other consultancy firms. So I think, now we know traditionally consultancy firms are very, very good at talking to the decision makers in the C-suite. Getting straight up there, talking their language, talking business outcomes. And I think agencies need to look at what's happening over here and start to recognize that they do need to sort of get better at talking business. Because I went to the IPA conference. I don't know if you go to the business conference every year. And there was a fantastic speech by Lisa Thomas, who's head of brand for Virgin. Now, Lisa has worked both agency side and client side. And she said, let me tell you guys, and she was kind of pointing all over, let me tell you guys, in the boardroom, the only conversation that's being had is about results, outcomes. If you want to enter into that conversation and be seen as any kind of partner to our business, you need to be able to talk that language, and you need to talk, So I do think we need to get better at talking business outcomes. Absolutely. And we need to sharpen our consultancy skills.
100%, because consultants say, what is your problem? how can I help you? Whereas lots of agencies say, hello, we do brand, or hello, we do PPC, or hello, we do SEO, or hello, we do PR, or whatever it is. And if you're, as I said to you earlier, if you're a hammer, all problems are nails. And the great advantage that consultancies have is that they're a bit more, they should be a bit more holistic, and they're going in and saying, what's the problem and how can we figure it out, as opposed to, do you need a new logo? Do you need an advertising campaign? And it's
and talking about themselves. I mean, my mentor Marcus Kalki, who taught me the sales
Marcus,
stuff.
I know Marcus.
You know Marcus, okay?
So I did a presentation with Marcus once where he brought a whip, a full-on whip.
That is so Marcus. It's so Marcus. So he was my mentor, my sales mentor, and that's why. I mean, we're very good friends now. But he says, and I'm going to quote him because I can't steal it, but he says, we are very good as agencies showing presentations, aren't we? This is us. This is our creds. Yeah. He said, showing your capabilities is like showing pictures of your kids to strangers.
Yeah.
And that is so true. They're not interested. It's what can you do for me? Not this is us, So yeah, changing that conversation.
I love that. So what next for account management skills?
So I'm really excited. I'm only able to work with a handful of clients on this 3-month program. But what I'm really excited about doing is I'm going to do a 90-day program that it's going to be a blended learning between e-learning and weekly coaching. So everyone is going to have access to my 3-step process, going from unpredictable project revenue to predictable account growth, step by step, and they're also going to get the coaching and hand-holding as well. So I think I can reach more people with that program. And we're going to have a Slack group as well for in between. So I'm really excited because I think that continual support is what I've seen has been the real game changer. And I just want to get this out to more account managers who might be struggling with their confidence levels with clients and would really benefit. And I've seen the benefits already. So that's what I'm launching.
Lovely. And finally, all your details will be at the bottom, so to speak, on the close. But if you were to do your top tips, 3 top ideas, the one thing type piece that you'd like to communicate with people about what they should, could, ought to be doing, what would that be?
Get a mentor. I'm part of mastermind groups, and I have done since I started my own business. And I think you can benefit from someone else's mistakes and make your life so much easier, and also get that external perspective. So I think from my own perspective and my own business, I've benefited hugely, and I think agency owners can also do the same. So if you don't currently have a mentor, then get a mentor that's going to work with you over the long time, that has proven that they've got results before. Pick the person wisely, but that is going to shortcut your growth and your success.
Absolutely brilliant, Jenny. Thank you ever so much for the time. Thanks for sharing what you're doing. Thanks for nudging us and pushing us along the way and challenging us to be even better. And also thank you for kind of clearing up some of the almost like the myths of account management and what you do. So a very big thank you, and we'll talk again. Thank you very much.
No, thank you, Robert. Thank you so much for inviting me. I really, really enjoyed it. Thanks a lot.
Okay, cheerio. Bye-bye.
Bye.